Sorry, didn't realize I was letting the time get away from you there. Hello, and welcome to the very beginning, the Patreon portion of the Odin Makes Sunday live stream. Hello, my name is Odin, and if you can't tell, Felicia's not here today. Felicia's not going to be here today. She's traveling today and enjoying herself, hopefully in the beach and in the sun in March. So maybe not. But anyway, hello everyone. Because she's not here, Pink Power Ranger isn't going to be worked on a whole lot. There's a little bit of progress on that, and I'll bring that up in just a second. And then I got some progress on the Droid, and then I thought I would continue on with what I was talking about last stream with the triangle cuts. I could show how I use them, and then I'm going to have to do some more finish work on them, as well as work on some more pieces for the Clue project. That's what I'm planning on doing today. Shady says it's going to be a fun stream. Oh, good, Shady. Hello there. Hi, Dan Does Junk, and hello, Shop Gremlin. Thank you for joining us today. Right. So Felicia's out of town. Felicia's not going to be here. I'll be saying that a lot, especially once we start going to noon. It is was daylight savings here in the United States, so kind of starting a little early for those of you who don't follow the exact same daylight savings patterns that we do. The majority of you are going to be watching this in the future anyway, so thank you all very much. I super appreciate everyone who watches my streams not live. You guys are great. I really appreciate the time that you spend watching me. Stupid Monkey is here. Hello, people. Hello, Stupid Monkey. Okay, so where am I? Which do I want to do first? Okay, before I start making a mess, probably Droid update first is best. So let's do a Droid update. Shop Gremlin and I, mostly Shop Gremlin, but, you know, Shop Gremlin's project, and I'm helping, best way to put it, is making an R6 droid. This is a type of droid that was seen in, I believe, Rogue One, and then it's not even blink and you'll miss it. It's a fuzzy few pixels in the background of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, but it's an official droid. And let me click over. I've got a picture. I've talked about this before. You guys have seen it before. But the droid they made a legit head for it. So this is the R6 head. It is different from the R2 head, where the R2 is a hemisphere. And this is, of course, different from the R5D4, the one that was red and white, the bad motivator from Star Wars. Because this one doesn't have the three little dots for an eye. It doesn't have that slightly extended neck portion. Instead, it's a really happy mix of the obvious profile of R5D4 and the familiar eye and what you're going to look at of R2D2, because R5D4 has three little eye holes, so when you're looking at him, he's kind of like looking at a bug. I guess this is as much of a bug eye too, but there's something else about R5 that's, I think, is a great choice for a droid to build. Been working away on this thing quite a bit. In fact, well, I've got the body here, which is going to fit completely off the screen. I'll probably have to set the droid down in a chair. But, door open. There we go. Perfect! Alright, well, that's not too bad. Let's see if I move this project. Balancer on the chair. Come here. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay. So, visually, what's changed? Probably not a lot. I mean, obviously there's some big changes here, but probably not a lot. A big one, if you haven't picked up on it, is that I am comfortable picking it up and moving it around with her head sitting on it. By the way, the droid's a she. With her head sitting on her body. So, that's because one of the big things we got done this last week was figuring out how to get, let me hold on to her, she's sitting on a cushion. She's drunk, okay? How to get the R6 head, which has nothing inside of it, to be able to fit and attach to the Mark IV complex body from badly printed droids. everything about the Mark IV complex body is for R2-D2. They are not focusing on the alternate droids right now. This thing is still in beta. When we started printing it, when Shop Grumman started printing it, it was in alpha. And so there are parts that we have made a couple of times because things got updated, or more specifically, we were trying to make a part on a couple of these that ended up being updated later with parts that fit better. So we reprinted the new parts because it's fitting and working better with the whole system of the Mark IV body. With the head, this past week they finally released a updated gear mechanism that goes in the top, as well as a subsequent gear that fits to it that's supposed to hold on to the R2 head. Again, all this is made for a domed head. Now the issue is the way everything fits together with this silver piece. That's an actual aluminum Lazy Susan, and that's what the gear is attached to. This piece on top is a gear. And I'm just going to drop stuff. I shouldn't do that. We got manipulator arms. They are not glued in yet. They're not going to be glued in, but they're not properly attached yet. And I dropped one on the way out before too. You know, if I put them back, I'm probably just going to drop them again. Let's not drop them again. This is the third gear, head gear ring that we printed. And this is the newest one specifically made for the complex body. It is made to attach to an 18-inch aluminum Lazy Susan, which is what this is. So it's a little stiff at the moment. It could be that either there's too much tension attaching the Lazy Susan to the body, or it just needs a little more lubricant. One of the two. But anyway, this thing's set up and you put a motor in it that goes to the gear. You probably can't see it. It's just underneath this this lip, and that's what makes the head rotate. The head attaches to this ring with a secondary ring that has magnets and keys to it. And that's right here. Let's see, do I have anything? Yeah, here, we'll go to this. So here's one of the magnets. Here's a couple of the little like teeth that pop down that fit into the notches that are on the big main ring. And so this Starquite, this was the first parts that we originally printed. And since then, as we've been ordering more and more ASA filament, they've stopped putting as much pigment into it, and so we're getting this more of a natural, neutral white color. It's still basically white, but it's translucent. It's just more of a, it doesn't have as much pigment. And while part of me is like, it doesn't match, realistically it doesn't matter. So what we had to do was take this ring that was made for the R2 head and cut it down, because this is the head for R6, and in order to change this to fit the ring, we're reprinting the whole thing, or doing massive destructive surgery and correcting it, whereas correcting this part was a bit easier. And so recreated this ring, cut it down, made this part wider. Originally these stuck out like claws, so the original ring would have been almost right behind it, or about halfway through them. So I extended it out to make this thing about 15 millimeters wide, something like that. It's just as thick as it always had been, which was part of the problem. The head ended up sitting properly against the bottom of this attachment ring, which happens to be right where the body needs to be, right? Because it's got this extra lip. So when you put it on, there it is. This gap was 6 millimeters or 8 millimeters higher, big enough that I could just barely get my pinky finger in there. That's how big the gap was. So that's why we had to change the part and make our new part. But I also had to retrofit those changes so they would fit inside of the head, which is all frickin' slants and angles. Let's do this one. Because of this angle on the outside. So here's a profile, sorry, it's blown out. Here's a profile on the side. There's the bottommost ring, which goes up a little bit, almost to the wrinkle of my finger. And then we have this slant on the inside that's only about so thick. It's not terribly thick. And then the slant that comes up here. So whatever happened to the ring had to fit those slants, those angles, whatever we want to say. And I'm probably never going to be able to see in there. Let's see. So inside the ring, I got to try and find it. I've got the ring part, which we broke into 4 pieces to fit in the print bed. It was designed with totally straight walls, so I'm calling this a straight wall compared to this being an angled wall. So it's completely straight on both sides, which meant that this ring could easily pass through into the narrow opening of the neck, right? So the ring can just fit inside without a problem. In fact, it's got a small gap in order to help allow adjustment to get the R6 head to fit as well as it could to the R6 body. There was an issue with gluing together the head. She's slightly potato chipped, and hopefully this was going to help correct that too. Meaning that there's one point around the side here where it's a little more wobbled than it is on all the other sides, but it's fine. In order to glue them together inside, where am I pointing? It's not a mirror. Okay, I've got whichever. It's almost easier to see this one over here. I've got this. Here's the ring. And then up here is a little step piece, right? You can kind of see it. It's an additional piece. It's a step in between the two. It's a little bit higher. This is the point where it's potato chipped. What this little piece back here, on the side closer to my finger, the walls are straight up and down. It's like a curved triangle, right? On the back side, it matches the angle of this part. So when the head was set down, we were able to put the inner ring against the ring of the droid, and then take her back panel off, because her whole back panel comes off, which provides plenty of space. I'll pull that off in a second. You saw it last time. And then I could reach up inside and drop these like semicircle, 8mm tall, triangular cut, something like that, pieces in between the two, after having applied the melted ABS or the melted ASA goo, because we found out that the filament totally just dissolves in acetone. So took a mason jar full of acetone, started putting all the extra parts, the support pieces, the pieces that didn't work, start putting those into this jar of acetone, and it turns it into a thick putty paste that we can spread with a palette knife, or I actually painted onto all these pieces with a Q-tip. I just covered the sides with this really thick solvent glue. I don't know why it's air quotes, it is thick. And then I was able to reach, so I had tape on my fingers, I had my piece, semicircle, stuck to my fingers, and with it stuck on there, I could then reach up inside the head and place it where I wanted. And I figured out pretty quickly that I wasn't able to do this process first and then get my wrist to adjust to be able to place this correctly. So I would drop, the head was assembled to the body, and I would drop my dry angle piece in place, make sure it's set where I wanted it. Then I would put tape in my fingers and retrieve the piece. So at that point, how my arm wanted to function was an easy way to put it back. Then with my other hand, I would just paint up both sides of the angle piece, reach back up inside the body when I can still see through the same holes I'm showing you here, because thankfully she's got these big portholes on the side, and place it down and get it to glue in place. And then just left it overnight, and the acetone evaporated off. All the ASA re-solidified as well as melted itself to the neighboring pieces of ASA. She's not coming apart. In fact, she's not coming apart to a point that I can say with authority that she's not coming apart. There were some leg pieces that we were playing with that were a failed print. Sorry, that was loud. That were a failed print. And so these leg pieces, this is cylinders that go along the ankles. They were just a cylinder. Pretend this is a cylinder. It was just a cylinder, and a cylinder with the tiniest little piece of filament in between it. It had holes the diameter of the filament. So you had an alignment pin. That's all that was. So we painted the sides, lined them together, glued them together, let them set up, and set it aside. Like a week later, realized there's an error with that. The parts weren't fitting with tolerance over some screw pieces, some threaded screws that were pointing out. So we had to modify the parts. Remember, this was all alpha and beta when we started working with it. So we're finding issues, either with the way we're doing it or just in general. And this one's more of a just in general. So we had to shop them and modify the parts, printed them again. But that left us with these parts that were grippable and glued together so we could actually do a stress brake test, which we hadn't done yet. And so out of curiosity, the first time I took these things, there was also magnets that were glued into them, right? So there was a couple of magnets glued into the side. So the first time with the magnets in place, so it's as printed and perfect as it could have been with these magnets that are glued with Duo or Duco cement, and then the other ends are just fixed together with solvent cement. And I went to go and break it, and I actually stopped because I was hurting my hands before I was able to get the part to break. It was only about so long, so I didn't get a lot of leverage on it. But still, the fact that I was intentionally attempting to break this thing, and the corners of the cylinders was hurting the palms of my hands. So we thought that was really funny. And because Odin didn't break it, that's really kind of cool. And set it aside and thought, okay, we'll show you guys on the stream. A couple days later, we have a couple of friends over, also spent the time to retrieve the magnets out of it, which caused a little bit of destruction around where the magnets were. You know, there were now cracks introduced to the original printed piece where the magnets came out because parts of that plastic got chewed up with tools digging these magnets out. The magnets survived, but we got the magnets out. They're like $1 a piece, so we want to save these magnets. Use them again in a part we're going to keep. So showing the friends that are here that, hey, this thing is really hard to break, and going to do it, and it broke where the weakness was introduced. It still didn't break where the solvent was. So the actual printed piece broke apart, still not along the layer lines. It just fractured where that was. And it was still really impressive. So I've got a lot of confidence with the solvent glue, with it being able to hold up. I still want to be ginger with this thing, but because I don't want to introduce cracks and damage that I don't need. But at the same time, yeah, pretty confident that I'm not worried about the parts that are glued on that are going to stay on. So that was really kind of fun. I buried up chat. Should check on that. I might turn the laser fan off too. Good to know you're almost done printing. Yeah, almost. Literally on the last leg of printing. Yes! Let me go turn the... You running a laser cutter? Even if the microphone doesn't hear the fan noise, I feel like I have to talk over it, so that'll make it more comfortable for me. Comments are saying, only 3 minutes of ads first. Oh, man! How much does all that weigh right now? Yeah, we can still pick her up without issue. I'd have to bring out a scale, but it's pretty good. There's been a few kilograms of material printed out, a few rolls. It's you can feel it. It's substantially. It's got some decent weight. It's not lightweight. You know, it's in the neighborhood of 20 pounds ish, probably. I don't know. It's in there. But yeah, one of the comments that Shop Gremlin says, literally the last leg of printing. Last night finished the last piece of the right leg, so we have all the parts for the right leg to be able to start assembling it, which is nice that all of this below her neck, all of this is, I think, almost strictly entirely assembled with screws and whatnot. So below here, almost nothing is glued. There's a couple little pieces, but almost nothing is glued, which means if something goes wrong, we can take her apart. And that's been great. Otherwise, would have been forced to keep going with stuff that wasn't working. Sorry, I ripped her arms off. I'm going to move her in just a minute. Nothing's glued. It's great. Going to move her in just a minute, and stuff's going to fall off again anyway. So I got the entirety of the right leg. Actually, some of the hardware to assemble the right leg is going to arrive today. And there are a couple of 500 millimeter long, 6 millimeter all thread pieces. That's a brand name. It's threaded rod is a generic name. Because the whole thing was Mr. Badley is in the UK, so everything's metric, which is great. I don't care, but it does create a logistical problem in the States finding exactly the right material. I just can't run to the hardware store and get all of these parts easily. There's a very limited metric supplies available in the States. But I can order them online, and it'll be here Friday. Good. I'm glad there's a lot of other good questions being asked about what things are going to be, what programs going to be used to be able to control the droid. One of the questions Shop Roman's answering is Padawan 360, which is a custom-made driver software for the droid that uses either an Xbox or a PlayStation controller because they're Bluetooth. And then if you need additional buttons or something else, I think you can use your phone. So that's the initial plan. I believe Shop Grumman wants to go with a Kyber system, which is going to look more like the remote control Doc had for the DeLorean, which is the big giant futaba with all these extra buttons and crap on the sides. I can totally see why Shop Grumman wants that controller. And that's more what what is used for Lucasfilm. They pretty much use what is considered a Kyber system. Anyone's welcome to correct me because I'm making generalizations because I'm not an authority. But that is the type of controller that they are using, as told to us by the Astromech Builder Club that we've both seen in person at WonderCon as well as online. That the Bluetooth connections are not considered reliable enough on set, if I'm understanding correctly. So they use these other radio frequency connections that are more reliable, probably because you can isolate which frequency it's using, as opposed to Bluetooth where everything's just kind of on the same frequency and crap has to handshake and talk to each other happily. So, something like that. Generalizations. I was talking about the back panel. Still manages to come off. Which is attached with magnets. And then you can kind of see... There go the arms again! And then you can kind of see inside. I'm sorry, Shop Roman. You can kind of see inside. And there's this yellow thing in here. This goes along with... I'll pick that up for a step on it. There's the third piece. Don't see it yet. There's the third piece. The gear is still loose. I think I scratched some black. Anyway. Do something stupid until you lose your train of thought. The vents are going to fall out too. Great. So this yellow thing in here is a connector between the two shoulders. As it is, the Mark IV is designed to be more like a giant action figure in a way. It's still controllable, right? It's still designed to be able to put motors in the feet, have a third leg down, and then you can drive it around. But then you remove the third leg. It doesn't go back up into the body the way it's currently designed. You remove the third leg, and then adjust some tension on this inner axle here. This part actually remains stationary, but there's grooves in the side, and you're able to, by hand, put it into an upright position. So now the R2 unit is in its two-leg pose, and then it's able to stand there, right? And you can still control it, but they're top-heavy. You don't want to do it on only 2 feet because the chances of it falling over is almost 100%. So of course we're working on how to make this do the 2-3-2 transformation, meaning it's 2 legs, transfers to 3 legs, and then transfers back to 2 legs, all with motors and remote control. Getting closer and closer on seeing how to do that, because one of the big tricks is you have to put motors into the ankles of the legs, right? So you got the drive motor in the big foot that actually makes the droid move back and forth. But then there's the pivot at the top that the leg goes off of, so the foot has to be on the ground and the leg has to pivot off of that 36 degrees or whatever it is, and then it has to pivot at the shoulder, so the body remains same and it does this type of a motion, right? So this ankle needs to be motorized in order to push the droid forward, and then hold it with the center foot. As far as I know, that's generally the way it's done, as opposed to motorizing the shoulder, and then the ankle is able to be, just be loose. That's not what's done, probably because it trips on the front of its toes or something. But so looking at how to do that, and actually one of the guys building a styrene droid did that with a motor from an electric window out of an automobile, which was kind of cool. So looking at doing that, that's something that Shop Grumman and I are totally trying to figure out, because there is no official 2 transfer to 3 and transfer back to 2 mechanism made for the Mark IV complex body and all the parts that go inside of it. In fact, with the way it's designed, it's very much this is what it is, and so you're making this model kit, and there's a lot of stuff that gets put in here that is either really hard to find in the States or really doesn't fit with our plans at all, because stuff is just going to get in the way. And there's nothing wrong about that. That was just, they're designing the droid, they wanted to design it, and that's not the way we want to use it, so we're modifying it. Yeah, there's all that. Let's see, what else? More lights showed up. Those aren't put in yet. And yeah, I think that's most of the droid. Did I miss anything, Shop Grandma? For an Easter egg, put a picture of Kenny Baker in there. That'd be awesome, stupid monkey. Oh, okay. Dan Does Junk says his new suit is on hold. Behind me right now, glaring at me. Dan Does Junk says, just tapes the arms together. I see plenty of other tape on. The tape is holding all the doors on. A lot of these doors have the hinge mechanisms, but they're not fully implemented, or we don't have all the servos. The ones that are able to easily move are the ones that have been moving on me. Oh, which is, that one's opening, and I think this one down here is opening, which I can't quite get now that I've leaned it back, can't quite get my fingers on. But anyway, so it has a couple of doors that are opening. And this is where some of the lights are. So a purchase has been made for the lights that go into this recharge panel. This isn't a panel that you see in the movies, but whatever, it's a cool panel. Bought the parts to do that. And then this becomes another charging port, I think, or something. Originally is the idea, but Shop Grumman wants to have every door that can open, wants that door to open and have the arms come out and whatnot. So that's all part of the plan. Dan will be posting the legs being fully assembled, certainly by Friday, because that's when the 500 millimeter long pieces of threaded rod show up. But a lot more of it is going to be assembled later today. So we will be putting more updates for this on Discord. So if you want to see, for those of you watching who are not members of the Discord, if you want to see more updates on the droid, please check out the Odin Makes Discord, which is available through Patreon. So patreon.com/Odin Makes. Join at the Discord level, and you'll have access to the Discord, which features all of us sharing our works in progress, as well as helping each other out with getting stuff built and sharing general madness that closed groups do, because it's a lot of fun. Basically, right? Yeah. So droid. I think that's pretty much it, right? Yeah. That's most of it. There's a lot of neat things that went into this that are cool about how it fits together. But it's all white on a studio that's going to blow out on a camera, as well as most of what we've been working on is going on the inside, which is really hard to show off with my current setup. So, what's the plans? We're coming up to Surf City Comic Con. That's going to be the second weekend in April. This will be in Santa Cruz, California. This is the 11th, which is a Saturday. It's a one-day con down in Santa Cruz. The goal is to have her painted for that. She'll just be a giant action figure, but the goal is to have the droid painted for that, and then the head will light up. So this portion has been the Stockton con. So the next con, want to have her painted, which is a lot because in order to paint it properly, you're going to need to be doing a lot of sanding, and there's a lot going on for sanding, and a lot going on not during a live stream and not anything else that may or may not be in the way of getting a lot of sanding done. Let me move the body, keep her safe. Keep her secret, keep her safe. I'm going to move her way out of the way so when I start working with a Dremel, I don't get her covered in dust. Plus, I got to find that one part that hit the floor. Ah, there it is. Found it. Rolled over by the bandsaw. Okay, so I got the part that dropped off because the arms come out as 3 pieces, which is kind of cool. So I got the main body part that has a you got your axle hole, and then the gears that attach to the servo. So those parts fit together. And then on this side, you actually get the manipulator arm, which just fits inside here. And this is probably going to be glued together. Just haven't quite got around to it yet. But this is the second or third manipulator arm that has been printed. And this is the newest Mark IV file, and this one's absolutely printed the cleanest. The last one had a lot more cleanup that was going to be needed and did not look nearly as nice. So I got some, when I set it down against the chair, I got a black mark on the back of it. Can you see it? It's caused by the, you can almost see it. A little bit of black mark down here. It's caused from the rubbing the lacquer off of the the stool here. Sorry, rubbed my stool on it. Ick. Same issue. Gonna have to find it later. Tilted my hand and that damn gear fell off again. But it's over there. Okay, move the head so it doesn't get covered in dust. Okie dokie. What's cool currently, the magnets are so strong you can almost pick the body up by just the head. It actually starts to move when you're starting to pick it up, but then the weight is just too much and the magnets let go. But the fact that it actually starts, it isn't just an on-off and it's just barely there to keep it connected. I do not have fear over the head coming off due to a bump in the road, which is good, or a bump in the floor, which is good. Seen it happen. And that is not a dig on the astromech that happened to. It's just the way things go, because these are almost all the heads are magnetized on, almost. Because you have that's how you get in, right? And literally in the original movie, that's how Kenny Baker got in and out. The back panel probably came off as well for Kenny, but the head came off so you could get to him and he could get a drink of water and he could get something, he could breathe. Yeah, so these droids match those blueprints and kind of work the same. Green tea. Not carbonated. Stupid Monkey says, I still think it needs a taser to chase you with. Considering it, not only does Hire for Hire and Adaptable Gamers Incorporated actually sell tasers at their booth at some cons when tasers are allowed. That would be a lot of fun. Talked about making a taser arm possibly with a couple of strands of fiber optic at the very end of it with a couple of different flashing LEDs. So it'd be like a 1-2 pattern that could just flicker. And so you'd have like this one come on and that one come on, but it'd come on really quick and then just kind of make the buzz noise. So if one of the arms extended, bzzz, you know, it would totally sell the effect and be fun. And it would be kid safe. Which is a consideration because every little kid sees an astromech at a con and they want to walk up to it. So you want to make sure that these things are stable. You want to make sure that whatever things these things are doing are fairly kid safe. Even if it isn't safe for the droid, if the kid starts doing something, the kid needs to win, right? You don't want to hurt anybody. That's not fun. Plushies love hugs. Those arms can be used to squeeze the life out of plushies. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, the plan is to power from 2 Ryobi 18-volt batteries because almost everything is 12 volts, so it's easy to knock that down to 12 volt plus. I've got plenty of them, so it makes it easy to keep them charged, right? And then in a horrible pinch, you can run to almost any Home Depot and pick up more Ryobi batteries if you really had to. So we go to the East Coast and somehow bring the droid with us and forget the batteries, which, yeah, I've kind of done dumb things like that before. It'd be possible to get replacement batteries on the road. So, droid update. What else is going on? I got a little bit to go live. I'll probably wait. Last week was Stockton Con. While at Stockton Con, we brought the droid to, have fun and show the droid off. So it was in the booth, and that was cool. So it was the first time that the R2 and the D Squad, and so our friends Steve and Chris got to see it up close. Got to kind of poke fun at us for using ASA filament because they don't use that filament. It's whatever. There's reasons I really like it. It's the same plastic like the classic X-Wing Starfighter toy was made out of that Kenner made, right? So there's like this bizarre idea and nostalgia thing. The S in ASA stands for styrene. It's also the same plastic that's used for all the model kits that I've ever glued together. All the Starship Enterprises, all the Snowspeeder and everything else. I remember gluing together the MPC R2D2 model kit in 1979, and that was a styrene plastic kit with chrome parts. It fit together like crap because it's an old MPC kit. But I remember building that kit, especially now building this one. And there's a weird thing in my brain that this is made from the same material that makes me happy. Can't say why, doesn't really matter. I think a big part of it is I'm really used to working with these materials. So the A in ASA is basically acrylic. It is a substance derived from acrylic. And then the S is styrene. It is a substance derived from styrene. And the third one is another substance derived from acrylic. So ASA is an acrylic filament. It is a high temperature filament, and it can stand high temperatures. And it's also UV stable. It doesn't, it'll yellow, but it doesn't break down as readily in a UV environment as pretty much all the other filaments do. So the fact that the droid is safe to leave in the car in the California Valley, it's safe to have outside all day. It's not going to destroy the filament. It goes to a number of events. Most of the time, these things get painted, and the paint provides that barrier for UV. But the plastic itself still has that resistance beyond just the paint, right? So there's a small bit of like, oh, that's really cool. It does smell different when it's printing. PLA, when it's printing, and especially when it's warm, really warm and off the bed, or when you're sanding it, smells like caramel popcorn. This smells like styrene, kind of. It's there's acrylic styrene. There's a very distinctive smell when I'm cutting acrylic with a power saw, or I'm cutting styrene with a power saw. And when I'm cutting those materials, I can tell that it's acrylic because of the way it smells. I can tell it's styrene because of the way it smells. This is a hybrid between the two. And it's not a smell that bothers me. But technically speaking, it is a higher odor filament. And so there's this, a lot of people are like, oh, you got to make sure you vent that. It's like, yeah, sure. It's in a very large space of the house. It is in a space that is vented, but not while it's printing because it'll kill the temperature. But realistically, out of all the things that I have floating around the house in my maker space of a house, the gases coming from ASA filament is on the low end of concern. This is way worse. The acetone that we're using to glue it together is worse. But hey, acetone is what you use for artificial fingernails or an acetone substitute. Haven't tried an acetone substitute with this because I'm just too happy to use the right thing. So just not... Yes, need to take care of my health. No, I'm not so scared of it that I'm not going to sit in the same room it's printing in while I'm working on the computer, and I do. And I'm just fine! So anyway, fun things. Are we at noon yet? I got a glare on the clock. Oh yeah, we are. Good. Oops. Stream settings. Still getting used to the new layout that they decided to go with. Visibility becomes public. Done. And playlists become live streams. Done. Save. Okay. I've opened up the stream to being public. Even though on my end, oh no, it hasn't frozen. I'm just working the computer. It's got to be exciting to watch me work the computer. Sorry, guys. Yes, make the astromech able to defend itself. Yes. The fact that the complex body has, so there's the two long panels that go down the side of the R2 unit, right? Just on the inside of the leg. This is the big panel that opens up that has the data port arm come out, the one that comes out and extends and figures out the Death Star plans. So the Mark III, I think, only had the two front doors open up. The Mark IV has the two front panels open up and the two back panels open up. And we know that R2 has Johnny Five style, Swiss Army attachments that seem to come out of the same compartment but do different things because movie magic. Definitely has the computer interface arm that comes up, extends, and twists. He definitely has the little grabber arm that he can play tug of war with a lamp with Yoda on Dagobah. Yeah, mine, or I help you not. He's also got an extendable arm that has a cutoff saw that helped them escape the Ewok net in Return of the Jedi. And then he's also got the taser that he shocked Salacious Crumb as well as broke Princess Leia's chains when she was chained at the Jabba, right? He zapped the chains and broke the chains so she could get out of the sail barge. And all these things came out of the R2 unit. Those are the ones I remember. What else does he do? He's got a fire extinguisher and he squirts oil and on and on and on. So it being the real world where a door opens and one item can come out because of the way everything's designed and space limitations, mostly that's space limitations inside the droid. Definitely want to have the computer manipulating arm, definitely want to have the little gripper grabby arm, want to go ahead and put the little spinny power saw arm without a real blade. Not sure what to put on the back yet. I guess the taser, but there's actually a taser designed to come out of the head too, so Hi everyone, it's noon, and we kicked over to being the live portion, the open to the public portion of the Odin Makes live stream. Hello, it's Sunday. Welcome. My name is Odin, and you can tell Felicia's not here today. Felicia's traveling and enjoying herself, and she will hopefully be back with the next stream. I keep forgetting what Felicia's schedule is, and I think we talked about this before, and I went, oh yeah, I'll see you in a month, and I got my stuff done, so be ready for today, and she's like, no, I'm not in town, dude. So, alright, fine. Oops. Just did a big show and tell on the R6 unit. Anyone who just joined in, sorry you can't easily see it without just backing the stream up. What I'm going to continue on doing is I will talk about what happened with putting together the 133% Power Rangers helmets, and then I'll keep moving on with the triangle pieces that I was showing off last time, because those have now been incorporated into a project and need some finishing. So, R2 was built by Q at James Bond. Yes! Yes, it was, Lewis. Hello, Nevitz 0007. Speaking of James Bond. 17th Samurai Spirited says, greetings, Odin. Hello, greetings, 17th Samurai. How many days does it take everyone to change all of your clocks after daylight savings times? I'm pretty good at it because I'm a clock watcher and I like mechanical clocks. So the clock, whenever I'm glancing up and looking at the clock on the wall, is actually a mechanical clock. So I have to pull that down and then readjust the sweeping second hand on it. I grew up mechanical. I grew up with a cuckoo clock in the house, for Christ's sake. So I'm really happy having mechanical clocks around. But I've already changed the only 2 clocks in the house that have to be changed, which is my studio clock and the stove clock. And I suppose later on today, I'll probably change the clock in the car. How long does it take? It's been months. And in fact, when I was still had my studio set up at the media center, you know, I'm a clock watcher, and I glance at them all the time, whereas the owner of the media center isn't. And not a big deal. The guy's fine, right? He takes care of things. It's just the clock in the wall is a piece of art to him. It's not something that marks the procession of time. So I think once I waited just to see, and daylight savings caught up to the clock before it got changed. And that was the only time I waited. Past that, I just changed it. So how long? Well, if the guy at the media center does it, never, because it'll be right again. Based on this chaos, are we sure R2 wasn't built by Q from Star Trek? Yeah. Okay, that's actually kind of a fun thing. What other crazy builders do we know? I mean, like, R2's probably not built by Egon. I mean, Egon could certainly do the power source, but he doesn't really have that much as far as robots that we've seen examples for. Who else? Whoever built Inspector Gadget for sure could have built R2. In fact, he would have built the one or that company who built Inspector Gadget could have built the R2 that we see in the cartoons, where his entire body kind of shifts to have more emotion, right? Because all the Droids animated series, R2 would bend like a pool noodle to look at different things, which is okay as a cartoon. That's what you're supposed to do. But it was just like, you're all right. Walker Innovations 223 says, that day, I should make this bigger so I'm not squinting so hard. Come on. Oh, there it is. There it is. Oh, yeah, big old man. Font size. That daylight savings time thing messed me up last night. I didn't know it was happening last night. Neither did I. So it was just sudden for me since I was staying up late last night. Right? Shock Gremlin was up late last night getting parts printed for the R2 unit. And yeah, they noticed. I was like, it's 1 o'clock, it's 1:30, it's 3 o'clock. Wait a minute, what? I slept through it. Hi, people, says Ben and Lynch. Oh, Ben and Lynch is here. Sweet. Troy Schuster. Yeah, I think. Hi, Odin. Hello, Troy. Star Wars Cuckoo Clock, where R2 pops out and whistles every hour. Sounds fun. Yes, it does, actually. That would work out okay. It's just full-on mechanical cuckoo clock. We had it in the living room. It didn't survive one of the moves. My parents were probably sick of the damn thing. But no, it had the chains you had to pull up and down with the gravity weights that looked like elongated pine cones. It had all the gingerbread. The little cuckoo bird would come out. It had the super detailed, clock arms that have all like the French curves and stuff on them, so they aren't just straight. Yeah, I distinctly remember the noise of pulling the weights up and how that would make the clock wind back up. And I think as a kid, I was allowed to set the clock because even at that time, probably because of the dang cuckoo clock, I was, neurodivergent, watching the clocks go by. And that goes back to me being excited about someone else at play incorporated a clock that ran backwards, which is really cool. That would be something I'd love to have in a... It's a little big for my cube at work, but that'd be a great place to put it because that would just mess with everyone. Dan says, I'm a clock watcher too, and when I'm told that daylight savings time is coming, that stays on my mind hard. Yeah, I usually try to pay attention to it because I've had it... There's been one time when I've had it really bite me in the butt because I wasn't paying attention to daylight savings time. there was a place where I was working, and they were going to move out, and everyone said, meet here at 8 a.m. or whatever it was. And so, all right, and I set my alarms, and this is, early 90s, so no phones, no cell phones. So I set my alarm, and I head over to the business. Of course, I don't have keys, so I'm in the back parking lot, and I'm there a little bit early, so I'll be on time. And it's like, where is everyone? What the hell's going on? Because this was the whole set back portion of the year, right? So I actually arrived just before 7 a.m. And right at the time that I decide that screw this, I've been here nearly an hour, nobody else is here yet, and I'm starting to get ready to leave, someone else pulls up. It's like, oh, hey, you finally made it. They said, what do you mean? It's just now 8 o'clock. Have you been here? It's daylight savings time, you idiot. Yeah, that was fun. That was an enjoyable morning. J-Man Fett Cosplay 1998 says, hey Odin, I've been busy both with my crafting and my music hobby. That is awesome. Been busy with all sorts of crafting things, and no, have not been working on videos. Realize that I've got some videos I need to bring out. I got some videos in the vaults that need to be edited, a handful of them, as well as I think we've been taking some pictures and been doing some things. We'll probably have a show and tell video on the R6. I guess I kind of need to do that soon. It'd be better to shoot that before she's painted and then have have the painted happen during the video. So that's going to be coming up. Something else really fun coming up behind the scenes. Let's look under the cutting mat at Odin Makes. I've got limited time in the studio now. It's really kind of cool. Where I am currently living is going to change. Probably come some point in time in May. Going to end up moving from this space into a new space, which means any live streams in June are going to be a little different looking, a bit like when I first moved into this space almost 2 years ago. Because it's going to take some time to get things set up. Now, everything you see is a set. So everything here, everything behind me can move with me. I can take it down, load it up in a truck, and haul it to a new location, which I 100% planned on doing from the beginning, because this is a place that I knew that I was going to be moving into in the summer of this year. Just turned out that I get to go late spring, a couple of months earlier than anticipated. So this was coming up anyway. It's not like a huge shock to me. But it's here. It's happening. We should be able to start moving out of the building that we're in on May 1st. And once we start that process, we have 30 days to vacate the building because everything has to be moved, because the whole 30-day notice, month-to-month rent thing. Don't want to be paying month-to-month rent. Want to be out of this space and into a cheaper facility. So yeah, that's coming up. which is actually kind of cool, because cheaper facility is cool, even though the space is a little smaller, even though the space has less power dedicated in the power box, it's still cheaper. So looking forward to that. So just be aware that even though we're doing all this, I'm going to keep the live streams going. I want to get back onto doing videos again. Honestly, it's one of those things that I think about, I just haven't done. And part of it that's fun is I'm realizing April 1st is coming up. Got no plans for that. Had a plan. That plan changed. Don't know what I want to do for April 1st yet. So that's coming up. But at this point, April Fool's video is just putting out a normal video. April Fools! Here's a real video! Yeah, so come May, there might be a longer hiatus. There might be 3 weeks between videos, between live streams. But yeah, get to move. Kind of excited about it. Kind of hate moving, but that's okay. Get to move. Nice. Walker Innovation says, for some reason what you said just now about the clock gave me an idea how I could make a Star Wars themed cuckoo clock. That'd be very cool. When does the clock just ring it? Let's get over birthday was the 4th, and now I'm 20 years old. Sweet, Troy. You can always get an electrician to run the another line to the garage studio space if you need. Plan to. One of the issues with the space we're moving to was built in the mid 70s, and power expectations were completely different. So all the shop and the majority of the other living spaces all have one 15 amp circuit, right? That's not gonna work. So one of the things I need to do is contact the local municipal district and go, hey, can we get more power ran to the panel so I can get? I do know a couple of licensed electricians, so I can get one of these guys to come over and we can put each space on its own breaker, and we can have more dedicated power, so we can have more things on. Yeah, my electric bill is going to go up, but I live in a makerspace. I need to be able. I want to run my laser cutter and my fans and my cameras and my 3D printers and my dehydrators and I honestly, if all that's on the same circuit, this setup is on like 3 different circuits or 4 different circuits. So I'm really worried about having enough power, right? Like the laser actually is powered off of that's on its own dedicated circuit that's not being utilized by the washing machine. It's off the washing machine circuit. And then like the lights are plugged into the garage door opener circuit, and on and on and on. I got things plugged into different circuits just to break them up, right? Gonna have to do that again, but still, it's like, all right, it's not impossible, just oh, that's cool. Mario Move is coming out on April 1st. I didn't know that. That's cool. Bring back the How Odin Makes. Right. You know, you're not wrong, George. All right. Somebody's asking if I'm going to be making a Godzilla suit in the near future. I do not have solid plans. There's the, oh, hey, I could do that. That's about as far as that gets, as far as making a proper Godzilla suit. It'd be fun. Not going to lie. Recently on Instagram, somebody showed me a maker from in Asia that made a really good looking Mecha Godzilla. It's a bit glossy than I would want, but that was just the choice on how to fix it. It's also got a little more rust, sepia, whatever, as some of the shading. Kind of. I don't know if it's supposed to be rust or which. It's the way it's painted. But it's not painted bad. It's just got some nice color shading to it. That, again, not a choice I would have made because I don't see it in the movie. But that's just where my head goes. But the suit looks great. The head and the face is actually more accurate than mine. And I like the way some of the parts fit together. So I was contacting Treg the Viking. He's probably not on right now. It's got a very expensive tool that was purchased for stagecraft for doing plays, for bending PVC pipe. So you could do crazy wrought iron work for making sets for a play out of PVC pipe, so it's lightweight and inexpensive. So it's this long tube that I think it's a heating element you fit inside of the PVC pipe, and then heat the PVC pipe up uniformly. You extract the heating element, and then you can bend the tube. Maybe you leave the element in it, and then you bend the tube to your shapes. And generally, you if you're doing like a wrought iron, you'll cut your French curve shape so you can bend the plastic to it, and it cools very quickly and holds the shape. So what I want to do is do that because basically they have a hula hoop around the waist of the Mecha Godzilla to help keep the waist being round, which mine isn't. I've crushed it too many times, so it's kind of a mashed shape. But then also they've got a PVC that runs down between the legs with a couple of forks in the back that gives support to the tail, which mine doesn't have at all. And I kept thinking about how to do that with aluminum because that's where my brain goes. But it's like, okay, yeah, if I heat up and do this with some PVC pipe, flatten it where I need to flatten it, just use 1/2-inch pipe, and which hopefully the heating element does 1/2-inch pipe. It may only do 3/4. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. It will keep it lightweight as well, and it's plastic, so it's it's all these things. And then so I have plans on how to fix the Mecha Diaper and the Mecha Tail, which are the two pieces that have had the most damage over the past couple of years because I just don't treat it well. So you want to do that. But that's pending borrowing a tool from Treg. I could just use a heat gun, but I can't heat it all as equally, and for whatever reason, that's really what I want to do. I could also probably make a heating box for it, but too many other things to do instead of trying to make a tool to do something that I could do, anyway. Hey, Odin, how often do you change your glue pot for contact cement? Mark's Woodshop Craft. That is an excellent question because you can see it over here, and it is currently glued shut with a lot of goo around the edge. All right, glue pot. Yeah, this is actually okay with me because this has been in storage for a week. I haven't opened it up for a week. This much glue around it keeps it a little more sealed, so the glue inside is good. You have to... it looks like a horror movie. Oh no, it's the dip! Wow, I can't just pull it off. I actually have to... all right, I'm going to actually have to cut that because I'm going to end up splashing. So the glue inside is still very happy. How often do I change the glue? When I need to. Once the glue in the glue pot does slowly evaporate its chemicals, that makes it liquidy. And there will come a time that the glue in the glue pot will become really thick and harder to use and really hard to get a nice thin layer on your foam because it ends up going on thick and gloppy. So at that point, I change that out. How often does that happen? Whenever I notice that I need to do it is the only way I can really explain it. And at this point, I call it cycling my glue because what I end up doing is I'll do one of two things is the better answer. I didn't splash it. Either I'll just add more xylene or more naphtha or both because those are the two primary chemicals in contact cement, or at least in the one that I use. I'll just pour that directly into here and then mix it up. And that adding those effectively thinners to the glue gets it back to an easier amount to use if it's thickened up. Or I will just take the glue pot. I got a clean one over here. Thank you, with dust on it, so it's not that clean. Thank you, Aria 51 for a secondary glue pot. What I'll end up doing is take the brush and set it aside, and I'll actually take the glue pot and put it upside down on top of my paint can full of contact cement, because the corners are just a little bit bigger than the diameter of the can that the glue comes in, because I use the DAP weldwood. So I can just set it there and leave it and ignore it, and it'll drain back into all my good, clean contact cement. Okay, so the part of me is like, no, don't do that. But once you've done that, you can mix your contact cement. The contact cement is self-solvent, so it'll liquefy all that thicker contact cement. Yeah, you've now made your good stuff a little bit thicker. But you can still add a little xylene to the top. Give it a shot of xylene. Give it a shot of naphtha. And still mix it all up and get it back to being a really healthy, contact cement that you want. And then ideally, I can go to like Ace Hardware here in the States. That's like the only place that I know I've seen them anymore. There's this, it looks like a baseball cap almost rim. It's a thing that you snap onto the edge of your paint can. It's made for latex house paint. You snap that onto the edge of the can, so when you go to pour your paint can, it becomes a little bit of a spout, and it keeps it from pouring on the sides of the cans. It totally works with contact cement, and then when the contact cement dries, the plastic that it's made out of, it peels off. I've got like two of those things. They're yellow. One is 20 years old, and it still works. It's got a bunch of nicks in it, but it still works. And the newer one, of course, is newer, and it still works. That's my preferred method for filling these. When I can't find those, I do what Evil Ted does, which is go get a disposable like plastic cup, a drink cup, or a water bottle that I cut down, and you just start ladling out and pouring it in. I've done that on a stream here recently because, I don't know where all my stuff is. So how often? When it needs it. Whenever it starts to be really thick, whenever it isn't spreading the way I want it to spread. And that happens so slowly, I don't usually notice until it's really starting to be like peanut butter thick, right? Or not quite that thick, but starts to get to be really thick, and then that's when I will, reinvigorate, cycle my contact cement. Along this whole thought, who's asking me here? Mark's Woodshop. Woodshop Craft, yeah. Mark's Woodshop Craft. If you weren't aware of this, like in this case here, this glue pot, the brush cut is solid. Right? This is totally solid with dried contact cement. In the 90s, when this happened to me with the acid brushes we were using, those just like coiled metal brushes that had the synthetic coarse hairs on the end, we just throw the brushes away. The whole reason to buy those at that time is at that time they were like a nickel. And so I was like, fine, this one's dried, it's dead, throw it away, get a new brush, start painting again. This will come back to life. Contact cement is self-solvent. So by filling the pot with glue and then putting the brush into the pot, the fresh glue inside will dissolve and soften and work like paint thinner or whatever to the glue here until it comes back into being that type of a brush again, where it's going to move and be okay. And that takes maybe half an hour, right? So don't panic if your brush dries. They have those chip brushes, which are a really thin wood with the horsehair and the metal band around them. I haven't tried dissolving those a whole lot because, much like the old acid brushes, it's like, yeah, I'll just get a new one. But with this and any other brush that I would want to save, you can bring those brushes back to life if you care. But then at the same time, when you're putting on new contact cement, be aware of how much you're putting new contact cement over old contact cement, because if you've got a rounded object that's got, I'm talking EVA foam, that's got a seam. That seam is under tension because the foam wants to go back to being flat. So by having dried contact cement holding it together, you've got a great seam, you're good to go. You add more contact cement on top of it, or Plastidip, which has the same xylene and naphtha, I think, solvents in it. Those solvents will act on that seam just on the top edge where it can touch it, and it'll start to open up a little bit, just a little bit, like less than a millimeter, but enough you can totally see it when it's painted. And it used to piss me off because I couldn't understand what was going on until I finally noticed it. So, contact cement is self-solvent. Plastidip will dissolve contact cement. Just the way things work. Workshop? Do I keep saying it wrong? Lee, oh, good for you. Lee also gave me a bit of a side quest about 3D printing some eye mechanisms. Those are done, Lee. Those are ready to go. Time did change. Hello, Steve Knight. You've gone public live early today. Right. Here in the States, we finally did our time change. So, yeah, that happened. All right. A couple of streams ago, we were playing with the next decade's Super Sentai helmet. This is the original one that we put together the last time Felicia was here. So this is the 100% size as happened with the way I did it, based off of the next decade's pattern, right? So the pattern, I've still got that here in my stills. The pattern is a JPEG that's available from the YouTube channel called The Next Decade, Props and Costumes. So when Dustin made this pattern, however long ago, I don't remember right now, it's been a few years, it was saved out as a JPEG file, at least in the description of his video, where I downloaded it from, and then depending on the settings you're using for where this picture is going to go, it can affect its size. And this is where the problems that I probably inflicted on myself came from. I didn't watch all of the Next Decade's video. So if he specifically said what DPI, or dots per inch, you needed to print this thing out at in order to have it to be the right size, I didn't get that information. It's probably in there, right? I didn't pay attention to it. So I just took this panel, this JPEG, brought it straight into Inkscape, my vector art program of choice. And then that vector art program asks, hey, what's the DPI of this image? What size do you want it to be? I let it default to 72 DPI because that's video, or at least old video. So I was like, fine, you go ahead and do that, I don't care. And so it comes in, and now it's set at a size. And I trace those size, and I go, well, that's the size it is. And I started cutting these parts out. Turns out that wasn't the size that it is. It is a much smaller size. I've been thinking about this since StocktonCon, and I think that's where my error was. So when we did this, a month ago when Felicia was here and got this cut out and glued together, and then she went to try it on and she split the back because this thing is almost the same, if not a tiny bit smaller than her actual head. So last stream, I produced one that was 111%. I got that weird number by measuring what this was, which is pretty close to her head, versus what I think we wanted it to get to fit her head or whatever. Anyway, nailed it. This seems to be even more accurate to her head size than this one is. So this is, even though I haven't seen her since I got this one glued together, pretty sure this guy is a pretty accurate representation of Felicia's head. Still might be a little small, but certainly doesn't have the hair. Yeah, so not gonna work. At the end of that stream, because I think I still built this one on stream, right? Maybe. At the end of that stream, Shady was one of the ones that kept throwing out, you should do it this size. And we kept, numbers get throwing around. I think Shady was suggesting that we do it at 130. Certainly posted that on Discord. I saw it, and I went, okay, fine. I'll up it. I'll do 133. So I'll do it a third again larger than what this one was, right? Oh, 3% more because that's bigger, isn't it? Well, it is. And I got that glued together. And I was really hoping that she was going to be here this time to see how well 133% size fits. Because it seems like it's a tight fit, which is okay because these are supposed to be tight fit, right? Might need to actually cut the seam along the sides, reinforce it with something, but it seems like, of course, it doesn't fit me, but it seems like she might be able to fit it under her chin and pull it up and over her head, and really, at this point, really want to have an in-person fitting before I move on from this size to doing 140, 150, or whatever it needs to be. So yeah, hopefully we'll have... This seems like the right thing to go with. In fact, this is close enough I could, and it was a consideration that I might do on this stream, could have done on this stream, but I've decided I'm going to work on something else. Sorry. I still might do this, not on stream just to get it done. This is now close enough that I could do the paper pattern that I do, put aluminum foil on it with duct tape and start drawing out where the Pink Ranger pterodactyl goes, where the visor is going to go, where the mouthpiece is going to go, and so I can start figuring out the pattern pieces for making those parts. Because even if this is the wrong size, I could start doing math on if this is the size, and you figure out how much you need to increase the parts in order to make the new pieces fit. So if the pattern was made for this size helmet and this ends up being still too small for Felicia, it needs to get a little bit bigger, I can always just increase those pterodactyl pattern pieces a little bit in order to fit the new ones, and we should be good to go, right? At the same time, my brain's like, yeah, just make sure this thing's right first, and then you can go ahead and just do it once. But yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with working on the patterns, but I don't want to start cutting and gluing any more foam until fittings have actually started happening. But progress on the I know I keep nesting them. Progress on the Power Ranger helmet, progress on the Super Sentai helmet, and honestly, I'm really happy with the shape, right? Definitely, I like the chin. This is still very geometric. I don't mind. I intentionally did that because on the inside, I've scored it in order to make those angles happen. If I don't do that, or I do it less, these will be less pronounced. And I don't think the Power Rangers helmets are quite that faceted, but still don't care too much. And there's another pair up here that help with that bend a little bit with getting, but I can see it, right? And as a helmet blank, not only is this like Kamen Rider and a bunch of other, proper things that use this helmet shape, there's a lot of other things that could be done from this helmet shape. And that's really cool to me that I've got this base now, as well as the dome that I made however many years ago for the Mandalorians in order to make helmets. And this one's got more of a face to it. So thank you very much, The Next Decade. I really appreciate the pattern. Really appreciate that you made that pattern freely available and you said, here, have fun, go play with it. I am. Very cool. Okay, let's go back to comments. Let's get that one ready. Thanks for the wisdom, Odin. Oh, you're welcome, Mark. That's just 30 years experience of playing with contact cement. Yeah, first played with contact cement, probably 1991. 1992, I took a puppetry class at a community college, and where we took your basic couch foam, your basic open cell project foam, and then we cut it up just to make puppets. Right? It was a stagecraft that had no prerequisites for college. And yep, thank you, Kathy Burleson. I think that class really sent me down my make everything out of foam with contact cement that I'm still doing now in 2026. So I learned something in college. But in that class, and I made a dragon puppet, of course. In that class, what Kathy did was buy, it's college. Buy enough contact cement that you're going to use it for what you need it for. Once you've got the purchase approved, you buy enough that you can do what you need to do with it, as well as err on the side of having enough. Okay, we've got a class of 12 or 16 students, I don't remember how many of us were in the puppet making class, that are going to need to cut up this foam and then glue it together. Going to buy enough glue to be able to support that many people with however many projects we're doing. She bought a 5-gallon bucket. 5-gallon bucket of barge cement. She had barge contact cement. Absolutely bought the right stuff. Yeah. So we're in the costume shop, which is a one of those temporary trailer buildings. The buildings that like they're the temporary building. I don't know, what do you want to call this? It's a trailer. It's a mobile home, but it's not a mobile home. That type of building, right? It's got wheels underneath it, but it gets to be built to be kind of permanent because it's got power running to it. It's just not a Anyway, the costume shop was in one of those buildings with two of them side by side, so it was a nice big square. Yeah, we would just pop the top off that 5-gallon bucket, and we'd sit in the class for 2 hours, huffing them fumes, and working away with contact cement. I've got contact fume cement history galore. Literally popsicle sticks into the glue to paint on the edges of the foam. Right? Or we would take like Chinette bowls and get a little bit of glue and go to a different part of the room and do the same thing. And there were points when we'd open up the front door and the back window to get some air to go through the place, but still it was, yeah. So I worked with barge. 100% can say it is stronger than Tap Weldwood. Absolutely superior product. And then I've noticed that that's what the cobblers use to resole work boots. But yeah, that was fun. Also, I was the one, because I had a driver's license at the time and had no problem driving some of the bigger weird vehicles, like the panel. They had one of those Ford Econoline vans without windows. Kathy wasn't comfortable driving it because it didn't have the side windows. I drove it for the comic shop all the time, so I didn't care. So I got to go to a foam place that was in Sacramento at the time. Kingston Foam, I think it was called. They're way long gone. I think they had a buffalo for the logo. But they had this 8-foot by 8-foot or 10-foot by 10-foot by 10-foot tall, or at least it was originally, solid block of expanded foam, of the polyfill couch foam. Do I have any here so I'm not walking too far? No, but it's the project foam, right? It's that soft foam. Open cell foam. Anyway, they set this thing up with this giant horizontal bandsaw, cranked the bandsaw up to be just, I think we cut everything at 3/4 of 5/8 thick. And so the bandsaw starts running. The foam block was set on a sled with a forklift, and then the sled moved the foam through the bandsaw. So it just sliced the foam over the blade, and then came back to rest on top of the block of foam. The guy climbed up a ladder, rolled up the foam, and gave us our piece of like 10 foot by 10 foot foam. It's so thick, and that's what the class had to work with. That was awesome to get to see. Obviously, I still remember it. I went once. And that place is long gone. It used to be over by the Marconi RT station, but that thing's been gone since mid-90s or later. It disappeared a long time ago. But it was really cool getting to see, oh, okay, you cast a giant piece of foam, and then you just run a bandsaw through it to cut it down. And I got bandsaws over here I cut my foam down with. Museum he says, I've definitely lost brain cells to barge cement. Yep. Fuming out the portable building. Fuming out the portable classroom. Absolutely. Hey, Prajay Walk. Prajoal Kapad. I see walk in the middle of it, but that's not part of it. So Praj is here, visiting the channel for a really long time. How am I? Doing well. I'm excited that I'll be moving into a new facility soon. Still doing live streams, still building stuff. Just need to get more. And this is how Odin Makes videos made. That scene in The Simpsons where Homer cleans out the basement with chemicals. Absolutely. Museum Dave says the shape looks great. Probably talking about the Sentai helmet. I agree. I really think that worked out really well. Papa Bear Ranger, Mama Bear Ranger, Baby Bear Ranger. Yeah, I see the whole face for no reason, right? Can the large one fit my head? No, Lewis, the large one doesn't fit my head. It is still close to my head size. So the 130, I'd have to go larger than that. Don't know how large. I haven't really tried. So that one still doesn't fit my head. Ashley's here. Hey, miss you, Odin, and Miss Shop Kremlin. Ashley, right on. Hey, how's it going? Oh, that's cool. Yep. Great. How was it? How are I'm doing well. Okay. Okay, so did that. What am I doing next? I wanted to work on the clue props. So last stream, I talked about they're way up there. You can't see them. They're in the dark. No, they're actually not even in frame. They are they are right over here. I 3D printed some guides to help me cut the puzzle piece edges from floor mat foam into approximately 11 millimeter or 12 millimeter size triangles that I could then use as like knife edges and stuff. And I put the clue knives together last weekend at StocktonCon. So what I need to do today is do some Dremel work grinding these down, or start building the grip to the pepper pot revolver, because I got a lot of the parts ready for this. I might actually do more gluing than sanding, because do you want to listen to the Dremel run for an hour? But what's happened with the clue props? Still excited to have multiple sets of clue props, because I'm going to keep one set. I have made these once before years ago for a high school production of the stage version of the theatrical film based off of the board game Clue. So this is Parker Brothers Clue, Colonel Mustard with the knife in the kitchen, that whole thing, the knife. They made a movie of it in the 80s, which is really fun, but dated probably, but it's a really fun movie. And so now there's a stage version of it. And Roosevelt High School about 2-3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, did a production of it. And Treg the Viking was on lighting crew and just general stage manager, I guess. I'm not quite sure what his proper term is for that. But he'd built a lot of the sets, did a lot of the lights, did a lot of the sound design, because you end up with one person doing a lot of things at those level of stage productions. But asked if I could make the Clue weapons. So I did. I made stage-sized versions, approximately what seemed appropriate size versions of the pieces that come from the board game of Clue. So these have exactly the same silhouette and overall some of the same relief that the original little Parker Brothers clue pieces had. I just blew them up. Part of the size I went with is because there's a piece of wood inside, like the end is still flexible. Let's see. So the end has still got a little bit of flex to it, but throughout the main body here, there's a wooden paint stir stick, so the free ones you get at the paint department. With this one, I actually just cut the size I need out of laser plywood because it was easier for me to do that than to go get more paint sticks. But I had this done last time, but I've made one small modification, one small update. I actually put some grippy teeth inside the jaws of the wrench, something you'll probably not see on stage, but it made me really happy. And since I'm making a set for myself that you'll be able to pick up and look at a con, I went ahead and did that. This has got all of a 1mm relief, right? This is 2mm HD foam that I used a laser to etch 1mm deep, 1.5mm wide troughs into. So this is a single piece. Here's one of the first test ones I did that just wasn't deep enough. This is all it is. So I made a square. This is a triangle. I made a triangle, everyone. This is 4 lights. I made a rectangle of 2mm foam that was going to be the right size for the width of the wrench, right? This is the top of it, but still it's the same idea. So it's the right size for the wrench. So I could then cut out 8 of these with enough depth. This is the first one I was just testing with. Ended up having to do it a little deeper, but and then just glue these into place, and that was that. And it's just one of those dumb little added bits of texture that makes me happy. Much like the knurling down here, which I know I showed last time, was done the same way with a piece of 2mm wet the foam, where I just etched this cross pattern into it, right? So this is just a line that goes diagonal and a line that goes diagonal and so forth, and then again the other way, and then you wrap it around the foam dowel, and you get your knurled textured wheel that you would use to adjust your threading that would adjust the jaws to go up and down. My threading is huge because I did this with a soldering iron. Can't you tell? It's all perfectly the same size. But whatever, it's a stage prop. It'll work great. It looks great. I'm totally happy with it. No, really, I am. So anyway, I think the wrenches are done. I'll need the double check. I've got a little bit of rounding on the human grippy part, right? I've rounded these corners off a little bit. Everything else is still square. I like having a little bit extra poking out the top. I think that's something I did. I don't think that's in the game. But yeah, I've got wrenches that are not so bad. And I remember at Stockton Con, a couple of people got excited over an engineer's wrench from Team Fortress 2, which is, yeah, very similar. So got those done. I'm not going to bother to paint any of these until they're all ready to go under creature cast at the same time. They can all be sealed, and then we can paint them all at the same time. So last time I think I had the pieces for the knife started, even though they weren't glued together yet. And so this is the assembled knife. It's 2 layers of floor mat foam. There's a single layer of 3mm foam in the handle, right? So that's what this sandwich is. We've got 10mm, 3mm, and 10mm, because inside, instead of the 6mm paint stick, I've got a single piece of 3mm plywood, so which makes the knife overall a little bit thinner. It's also, very flexible. And the tip is just foam, so the wood stops about here, and then the tip is just pure foam in case the kids get aggressive, and also if they get too aggressive, the wood will just break, right? So there's a safety thought with this thing failing, hopefully before somebody really gets hurt. But as you can see with the close-up, which I'll cut back to, this middle section is 2 pieces of 5mm foam that have been glued together with a 3mm in the middle. So the 3mm is down the middle, and then I just kind of pinch the sides. So it's just 10mm tall at the sides, and then it fattens up to 13 in the middle. It's not a whole lot. You can see it, and you really see it when it's silver, which is nice. But the 12mm or 11mm or so triangles that I had also cut are now a little bit too wide. And so I need to go through and sand all these down in order to get a better knife edge. But I'm still really close. And honestly, as a stage prop, I could just leave this and it'd be fine. And I kind of like this weird texture that happened, this weird like Damascus type texture that happened, just because of the way my saw blade works with heat and running this foam through my little jig where it couldn't move, as well. It heated up. But that's all going to go away by doing some Dremel work. And then the entirety of the handle needs to be rounded off, right? It's still square. So either with my 1-inch belt sander and some careful sanding, or just with the Dremel. Yeah, I'm already talking myself out of doing that live, because it's just going to be, an hour and a half of wee and... So the knives are basically done, except for getting some sanding done. So that's definitely a put on a respirator, put on some headphones, and just start doing it. And it'll probably take me an hour to an hour and a half to get all 4 of them done. Right? Not too bad. Enough that I think it's not fast enough for us today, but not that big of a deal for me for just work that I need to do. So I'm almost done with the knives. I think I'm done with the wrenches. Started working on the pepper pot revolver. Keep calling it that. I'm really concerned about, hey, I'm making what looks like, not a glue gun on the live stream. But I've got the parts done just for the grips, right? The little things that the little tube that goes on the end that the projectiles come out of. I don't have those cut, but this is a 6-barreled pepper pot style revolver, and they literally call it a revolver, and that's what it is in the game. And so I've got all these parts, which is almost all the foam parts, put together. That I'm gonna need to. I wasn't even paying attention. I'm just setting them out, and half of these aren't even on screen. There we go. 4. So I got all these parts cut out and ready to go. The plan is, this is a piece of 6mm MDF. This is the main body. This is what's going to be able to keep the grip of the glue gun solid. And then on either side of this goes a couple of pieces of this 5mm foam. This is just to bulk it up because it gets to be pretty thick. And then these textured pieces are going to go on the sides of those. So it's going to end up being like 36mm thick at the thickest. But the whole thing gets rounded over, because that's what happens. And then because this is 6mm thick, I've got the this is the mechanism to extrude the hot glue out the end of it. This fits in the notch here, and this piece I've already sat down in all 4 of them. I went ahead and did some rotary tool work on it. So as opposed to the edges here, which are square, all these other edges I've rounded over, except for the actual, making glue squirt mechanism that's right here, right? And then I'm keeping this attached. I know it kind of looks like a pretzel, but it's got a line here to make it look like 2 different pieces. But by keeping it attached, then anyone who's trying to make this non-functioning glue gun extrude glue won't actually do any harm to this piece. But that piece fits in there, and then this goes onto the side of it a little ways back, right? So it's back like that. And then you put one of these textured pieces on top of it, like that. And that happens on both sides, so it's way thick. And then there's a little knockout down here where we got a decorative circle and then a decorative circle that goes on top of it that becomes this decorative circle. That's actually in the original game piece. And then there's the flintlock cover that goes on top, which is this weird little piece. So the whole thing goes together, and this ends up going on top, right? Because this thing is a black powder hot glue gun. And so in order to heat the glue gun up, you've got this little bit of a black powder casing that, if it worked, would raise up and then it could pop down and then the glue could come out. But I need to glue these pieces together. They need to be rounded slightly with the Dremel. And then I need to cut. There's something I only noticed recently that I didn't do a couple years ago. I need to add a little piece of 15 millimeter round dowel to the end of it because it's actually a little cap that fits over it and opens up. So I need to glue that together. So this pile of stuff is kind of what I want to glue on next. Because I think it'd be fun. Now, as far as the part that extrudes the glue on the finished prop, remember this is a non-functioning glue gun, but if it was a functioning glue gun, then there would be 6 pieces of glue that stick out the front of it. I've got an image. Here we go. So these are the ones that I made for the Roseville High School production a few years ago. And you can see on the right side of your screen, we've got the wrench. All the way on the left side of the screen, we've got the knife, and that knife has got the 10 millimeter HD foam triangular piece that you can just go and buy. And I totally could have just gone and bought it, but I wasn't, I didn't want to run and buy it. I was wanting to see if I could make the part. And there, just to the right of the knife, is this 6-barreled hot glue gun that I'm talking about making. And you can see, I don't have an easy way of zooming in on it. You can see that I've done a lot of the rounding on it. I've done a lot of the sanding on it. I think with this one originally, I took the textured side of the foam and glued it into the sandwich. But this time I want to do the texture on the outside and just sand it all off. And then there's a cylinder just forward of the glue extruding mechanism of kneeling pad foam. And I've got that set up to cut, but I'll have to do it in the bandsaw, and I don't know if that's going to happen today. And then in front is some wooden dowels that represent where the glue comes out. And that's the other part I've got sitting over here that I haven't quite put together yet. I've got enough parts to make 4 glue guns, right? But I've got these star pieces here, which, get them on screen. And these guys were made to fit in between the 6 wooden dowels that I'm going to use for the barrels, which this here's the same size. This is a it's a 5/8 inch dowel, which is about 16 millimeter. So it just glues on like that. So once this is cut down to lengths about so long, they're not terribly long, cut all this down with a chop saw, I can take 6 of them and then put, try to avoid the sticker. If I put 3 of these in different lengths, it'll help me to arrange them into the pepper pot glue gun pattern that we see. It can all get super glued to these. The back one of this pattern, I'll just use the flat side to increase the surface in the back to be able to cement that to the handle. And then the front one has this little notch in it. I don't think that's something that's in the game. I think that was just something I did to try and make it slightly more interesting. And then just in general, since I'm letting the laser cut them out, I just let all the pieces cut out to be the same. So these 2 are going to get buried. You'll never see them. Doesn't matter that they've got the little relief cut out in them, because whatever, it doesn't matter, right? You're not going to see it. And it doesn't matter to me that the laser bothered to do it, because they're all the same now. I don't have to make sure that the one I want in the front is the one in front. I don't accidentally glue the wrong part somewhere, because all the parts are the same. That may be, worth it for the extra work the laser did to me. So for the next hour of the stream, I want to put this crap together. Let me know if you think you're entirely disappointed by not listening to the high-pitched whine of my rotary tool run for the next hour. Instead, you're going to watch me huff contact cement. What do we got going on? Oh wait, is this for that Clue game? Yes, Ralph Morick, it is. These are oversized. I know I'm back in time. These are the oversized props for Clue, or Ralph, you may know it as Cluedo. It's called Cluedo in the UK. I don't know what it's called throughout the rest of Europe. It may be completely translated. I know the UK one because I'm pretty much speaking English. I speak American English, not the Queen's English, but still. And I speak the grade school version of American English at that. So, yeah, left to right. I've started with the most complicated ones that were also almost completely foam built. And so gotten all those taken care of. The candlestick, which is right in the center there, is also almost completely foam built. It's just done out of truncated cone patterns, out of a series of arches. Basically, if you were to think about cutting open a paper drink cup and then lay that out flat on a table, that ends up being the truncated cone pattern, where once it's rolled up, it becomes a paper cup. Same idea, as each angle of this candlestick changes. Like the base is one, and then there's one inside the base in the middle of the handle that the little gray strip is on, and then the handle is two different truncated cones glued together, and then there's another slightly smaller one that goes on top that the next gray piece is glued to, and then the top where the candle goes is got the slightest of cone shapes to it, because that's where the candle goes, and then you have the top rim, and so all that is just foam built and glued together. But that one, I think, was the last one I made last time, and I didn't organize my parts as well, so I haven't spent the time to make sure that I've got all the right angles again, because those are created with a convenient tool that comes from the Netherlands, .nl, for figuring out truncated cones. And if I'm missing one, I'm going to have to backwards engineer it, because there's nothing saved from the website. But I think I've got all the parts. And really, I'm not too worried about it. Okay, so but I am still going to bring out the rotary tool, because I want to, this piece that covers up the, the pop cap part of it, this needs to be, have some edges rounded on it slightly. So, when is all this stuff due? I don't remember. I think Treg wanted it like mid to end of April, something like that. I think I'm trying to shoot to have it done by the end of March. Get this done, get it to him, and invoice the high school for the payment that I'm going to get, because this is a paid gig, and I really appreciate that. Something else fun at Stockton Con, and this comes up a few times. I had a really good Dr. Doom walk up to me, curious about how to make a Luger. Very specific looking piece of war memorabilia, whatever, glue gun from World War II that apparently Victor Von Doom is known for having, I assume. I don't remember that well. I remember Victor Von Doom having ray guns and things, but he was interested, this cosplayer is interested in a Luger and how to get one that was made from foam, so it would be safe for cons, that would just be inert, and also it would be lighter weight. And yeah, actually, the Luger is, what's interesting to me is those types of glue guns are, when I look at them, they're flat, right? They've got a very narrow profile, and then they just look like a bent hockey stick from the other profile. And so mentally, it's easy for me to start layering together foam in order to get the relief of the different parts that I need, in order to get the patterns etched in for what your glue gun grip is going to have, and so on and so forth. And sometimes there's rounded things that go over the top, but that's still easy as well, because that's basically just a flat piece of foam that once you figure out what the shape is, you can flatten that out and you can etch your details into it and then glue it back onto the side. I actually made a pair of Lara Croft's 1911 glue guns a few years ago for somebody else that was trying to do that type of a cosplay at work. And so I made a pair of those really quick and gave them to her, so she would have the props that she needs. I didn't bother to paint those because it was easier taking them into work. It was easier to have those unpainted and easily pass a security check than to have them painted and pass a security check. Still, it's one of those things, once you investigate it, oh yeah, obviously this is no big deal, but you want it to pass the, you don't want to freak anyone out who happens to be passing you in the hallway by having something that looks real. Whereas with cosplay at a con, it's 100% what you want. You want something that's going to look real, sitting in your holster, so it looks right when someone happens to take your picture or whatever. But then if you need to pass security, no, it is a non-working solid foam prop, and everything's fine. And the other big thing you got to remember to do anytime you do any of these glue gun type builds out in the wild, out where the public is going to see it, here in the States anyway, you got to put the fluorescent orange safety tip on it. Tape is fine, but you have to have that on the federally rules. You have to have it on the end of your glue gun so people know that this is a replica glue gun. It's not actually going to squirt glue. And yeah, that's actually important. And I think at this point, a lot of the costume ones, and there aren't as many toy glue guns made now as there used to be. I don't even think they're allowed to be made out of a plastic that isn't white or orange, right? So it's even gone one up from there, because that's just what I'm seeing, and I can't see the manufacturers doing that intentionally. Like you're taking a Stormtrooper blaster, and it's all done in white with a little bit of orange accents. It's like, man, that's not the way they are in any of the movies. This has got to be a rule somewhere for why this is happening. Yeah. Stubokia says, if I remember the Luger design, it's a very simple design. It's a handle, a body, and a tube. 100%. They're all very simple designs because they were all handmade. They were all milled by hand back in the day when they were doing it, right? Or they would have a rough cast slug that then they would have to mill out to be machinery perfect. Yeah, no, it's very simple. And everything pretty much is up until, more fancy, more recent glue guns. In Dutch, it's called Cluedo. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's a great movie. Yes, Shady is. We got August Savior says, "Heyo, August Savior." Shavy is saying, fun fact, depending on what movie theater you went to, when you saw Clue, the theaters originally, you would get a different ending. And when it first came out, they didn't promote which ending they had. In fact, I'm not even sure if the theaters knew, although they might have, because they probably had, there was an A, B, and C label. There was actually a D ending planned and or shot that no one's seen, I guess, something I saw recently. On a YouTube video, it might have just been based off of the original script. But, the home video version had all three, so you could see which one you wanted to see. And then DVD came out where you could jump chapters, and that even made it easier to be able to see whichever ending you wanted. But when it was on VHS, where you had to watch it linearly, you would just kind of see all the endings in order, which would change who the victim was, who the murderer was, so on and so forth. Because it's a comedy movie. It's a fun comedy movie. And yeah, you're right, Shady. That's 100% what they did. And when it first came out, there was concern. Some people had concern over being able to see them all, which you really couldn't at first. After a couple of weeks, if that, somewhere in there, movies ran longer in the theater at the time. The theaters started showing which ending they had, or which showing had which ending. So you could see them all, which is, hey, repeat customers, that's great. But still wasn't a huge portion of the customers doing that. So how does the play go? I'm not sure. I did see Roseville High School's performance of the play. And at this point in time, I don't remember. There was more than once in the play when they would dip the black, a standard thing you do on stage. You turn the house lights off or you turn the stage lights off, and then you can change things on stage. And the stage lights come back on and something's changed. I don't remember if they did multiple endings in the stage play or not. They might have, because that's a big famous thing that the movie did. But yeah, I don't quite remember. And I remember Cluedo. I never got to play the Cluedo version, which I don't think changes at all for the board game version. I think it's just what the title is. I had a friend at the comic shop when I was working there at Comics and Comics, James. And James grew up in Britain. And so he remembers Piccadilly Square instead of Boardwalk on Monopoly, and remembers Cluedo, and always thought it was weird whenever he was seeing his friends and family in the States. He was American, just happened to grow up. So the fact that these things were different was always interesting to him because it was just not what he grew up with. So a lot of fun to talk to James about stuff like that. And he was the first one to let me know that, it was called Cluedo because wasn't information as readily available. God, what is that? Late 80s, early 90s when I worked at the comic shop. So having someone with personal experience was a way better way to get to know that quickly. Okay, so I got all 4 of that was actually kind of the right spot. So I got all 4 of the heated element covers glued together, right? And so this portion ends up meeting up with the very top of the grip, and that's why it's done that way. And then there's that slightly larger cylinder, and that's why there's this notch, because this piece ends up going, you really can't see it that well, but you can see the very center of the glue gun there has got this central round piece, and it's got a piece that this fits over. And so that's what's happening with this and why this notch is here. Now, what I had noticed recently that either I just decided I don't have time for this and I don't care, and so I omitted it, which is probably what happened, because the last time I had less time to do it and I had to figure everything out from scratch, right? So I spent a lot of time figuring out how I'm going to make these props. This time around, Trey comes around and says, hey, we're doing it again. I still got the files. All that work is done. I'm just running it through a new machine, so all I have to do is update the cut files, and I get the pieces. So now I can spend my time tinkering with it instead of getting the basic shape done, which has been making this a lot more fun. That, and I got time behind it, right? I didn't just do this last week, so doing it all over again for tinkering isn't necessarily as fun. So I've still got a couple of the 15 millimeter round foam dowels. These came from these aren't SKS props. These are the ones that are sold at a different hobby store here in the United States. What I want to do is see how close the diameter of this is to the middle size of the hole drills from Cause Tools. Still have these, still love these, even though everything else, even though most of the stuff in my life seems to be lasers, these are still fantastic, and I think this is going to work for what I want. Okay, so the middle one is a tiny bit too small. It would probably still work, and it might work better than the big one, because the big one's going to be too much. The thing is, the Cause Tools stuff is done, it doesn't matter, it's just the shape it is, right? But I think if you actually look at it, like this is 3/4 of an inch, this is 1/2 of an inch, and this one's 1/4 inch for the small, medium, and large. But 15 millimeter is greater than 1/2 an inch, it's closer to 5/8 of an inch. So then 3/4 is, I don't know, whatever it is. I mean, I got calipers here, but who cares? So it becomes, do I want to, so my plan is, I'm going to take this, or take one of these, and I'm going to cut off the end of the little lever piece, right? And what I want to do is I want to cut it off that way. So I end up with a cookie bite out of the top of this that I can then take this shape and glue it into in order to get the little round cap that goes on the end of the lever that is present in the original Cluedo piece, but I didn't make last time. Just like I didn't, just like I didn't do the knurling knob or the teeth on the wrench last time. So I think I'll do the middle-sized one because that's going to be close enough. Because I think doing it larger, I'm going to have too much of a gap. Maybe. I don't know, whatever. We'll just give it a shot. But before I do that, I do want to hook up the, this is me not putting my tools away properly. If you put the little vinyl pieces back on, you don't hurt the cutting edges, or specifically you don't hurt your fingers when you're digging the cutting edges out of the box. I want to round the edges of the lever. Right now it's totally square because it's just cut. What I want to do is I want to round off this edge and I want to round off this edge so it's more like this piece where it's just got this rounded piece to it. And this is 6mm What the Foam, by the way. This, I've still got some What the Foam. I think that's still available. It's that much denser EVA foam that's got like a rubberized content to it. And since this is just a single piece that has nothing else in it, it makes sense to use it. In fact, I found the same piece that I cut the original ones out of 2.5 years ago. So these got cut from exactly the same piece. And so, yeah, these are also some of that HD What the Foam. So I'm just going to round these off really quick. And so you do get to listen to the tool anyway. Let's do this. Do you have any comments? Yes, the home release has all the endings. Okay, people are remembering. Surprised you can get away with using the term glue gun as it contains the word glue. You are correct, Museum Dave. I don't know how upset the algorithm demigods are going to be with me talking about what this thing is directly. I don't know what level of whatever's going to happen. But we know from experience that they don't seem to care about glue guns. So it's going to be a glue gun. It's a solid thing. It doesn't do what it looks like it should do because it doesn't do anything. But, you know, that doesn't matter. So, okay, that doesn't matter. I'll go with that. I'm going to go ahead and put on some overkill PPE. I do not have to have... this is a respirator that is designed for vapor as well, which is great. This is what I should be using when I'm using contact cement. I just don't because I'm used to being on video and I want to talk to you guys. But this gives me some really good eye protection for doing that. So I'm going to put it on for that. But then also I do get the benefit of not inhaling the dust. So I'm not going to have, you know, gray snot coming out of my nose. I'm not going to be coughing.
Even though this is wow, that's way too tight. Even though this is more safety than I need to have for this part of the project. But no business and no safety instructor is going to be upset with you if you're wearing more than what's required in safety gear, as long as you're still within realistic parameters, right?
figured I had the crap on, I may as well start one. But that's the idea with the knives. I'll have to do that all the way around on both sides of the blades for all 4 of them. Not a big deal to do, not hard to do, but probably not fun to watch me do directly real time. Okay, so I got the levers. You have to yell that mask on. Thanks, Dan. Super Monkey says, this is very soothing and not helping me resist the siren's call of a nap. Luke, I am your father. Hey, Fountain Phil's here early. Sword of Aeons, Fable of the Lost chapter. Fountain Phil, I have noticed how reliable you are at getting a comment in. Just want to let you know, buddy, I have seen it. It is not something that I'm ignoring, or it's not something that I'm angry about or anything. I have seen it, and I've brought it up. All right. Let's talk about brains and sleep schedules. So the next thing I want to do is figure out the little cap that has to go on top, which is going to be a piece of this tube, piece of this rod, because it doesn't have a hole in it, so it's a rod. I'm going to need to figure out how much of this I'm going to want to cut in order to have it come off that. And then also, yeah, I can't imagine why I didn't want to do that right now. Freaking black dust everywhere. Anyway, even the end of this isn't square, which really doesn't matter, but it bugs my head. So we're going to, as close as I can. Where am I working at? I'm working here. That's a little better. Okay, it's also foam, little smoosh. So I want this part to be taller than this part. So realistically, I suppose if I just measure this part, because they'll all be relatively the same. 11.39, so 11 and a half. So what do we think? 13, 14. Let's do 14. And whatever, good enough. Now I'll use the pointy ends to just mark the rod. So I'm pressing down with the jaws of the calipers, and then rolling the rod underneath it to just create a line. Now this isn't, this is just my indication of where I want to cut. Yes, I do this kind of crap even when you guys aren't watching. This is still just kind of usually the way I end up doing it. All right, that should be okay enough. Keep playing with it a little bit. All right, so what I want to do is take a bite out of the end of this so it'll match up to the roundness of this part here. Where is my center? Over here. Okay. So I want to take a bite out of the end of this so it'll match up to that. Because right now, if I glue them together, it's going to end up just being, a lowercase I, where I've got my stick and the dot that goes on top. And that's not what I want to do. I want to have the two parts fit together. So option one is cut a square notch out of that. But realistically, this piece should be about there, where the front of this is pretty darn close to the front edge of the lever here, because this was done to take this lump into account. So I'm going to want to cut it around there somewhere. I'll just move that forward so the square is within the, so somewhere around there. So probably going to want to make a mark. Good enough. I'm going to aim for where the, you can't even see it. There's the pencil mark. I'm going to aim for where the pencil mark ends and the foam begins along the center line, right? So that's my target, not the 2mm wide pencil lead. So let's get the medium-sized one out. And what I want to do, that is really okay, good. It is, you can see it ever so slightly is the round bit going beyond the sides of the foam. So it's working. Of course, I've got it crooked, so that's going to piss me off. There we go. So I glue this there like that. I'll get the shape. It's starting to look like a stapler. You see my stapler? I'm making a foam stapler. But I also want to round the top of this off really quick. No, I don't have my mask on. I'm a bad example. Whoops. Why do I need safety glasses? I don't know. Well, the stone tears the foam up less, but it also takes a little longer to get the shape. The sanding drum removes material in a hurry, not even on screen, but leaves you with a rougher texture. Move this off a little bit. All right. Yeah. Now, notice on the rod there is a spot. Can you see it? There's a line there. That's actually a little flat edge. It's like how it was originally manufactured or something. So I want to make sure that I got, there it is, that flat edge. That's where I want to put the glue. It's going to take a minute to dry. Do it on time. I'm not doing too bad, but I'm not going to get all four done. I'll take one of the inner. Also, Mark's Wood Shop is Mark's Workshop. I kept saying the wrong thing. Sorry about that, Mark. Mark's Workshop. So let me just try to correct myself on that. Let's go ahead and get glue on all this stuff so everything can just dry. There we go. Okie dokie. Dry. I'm not measuring this one as carefully because it seemed like just getting the edge of the hole drill pretty much at the edge of the hammer is where it wants to be. There it goes. Just cut through, please. There we go. Okay. Oh, it did come out. Okay. So that one's a little off. Oh, well, there it is. Excuse me, but I think you have my stapler. It's mine. I brought it from home. Felicia can butcher anyone's name, even through Odin. I'll just throw these away. I don't care about them. I'm still really happy with the Cause Tools hole drills. This portion is not sponsored. Originally, Cause Tools did send me these red ones. I bought, or Jerry bought, one or the other, the blue set that I've also got. So these were originally a tool that was gifted to me to work with, but these things were awesome. And out of the entire Cause Tools line, this is the one that I definitely endorse the most. There it is. I find the most use for these, because I have them, right, than pretty much all the other tools they've got. There's nothing wrong with the other tools they've got, because they've got angle cutters, and they've got really good cutters that can get you a guaranteed 90 degree up and down, a guaranteed 45 up and down. And the circle cutter was fantastic. We were using that early on with the proton pack builds, but the laser kind of took over on that, so I use the laser now instead. But it's still, they're a fantastic, that particular, that's why I put glue on it so it's sticky now. That particular set of tools are really cool, and absolutely still like the Cause tools, still like the ones that, the ones that I use most of the time. I was very careful about measuring the first one, but now I'm just going to take my previous part and use it as an example for cutting the next one. So still really like the Cause tools, really is kind of what it comes down to. And I know Blick carries them. They're originally made for working with foam core and architectural models, and that's why a lot of the pieces they have are, a lot of the tools they have are really specially designed for working with foam core, but they translate and work well with foam as well. So definitely Cause tools. In fact, this is a Cause tools knife. The blade isn't. Blade's from Rocket Prop. That's my Slightly broken ceramic cutting blade from Rocket Props. Thank you, guys. As I use my Ryobi rotary tool. Thank you, guys. But Shock Grandma bought my PPE. That was bought and paid for. Okay. So stuff is drying. Then I'll do those really quick. I want to make sure. So I want the bottom edge of this to glue up with the bottom edge of this inside of the notch. So if I set it down on the table, it floats, right? So I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to take a piece of scrap, whatever. This happens to be styrene, but I'm going to take a piece of scrap, whatever, so I can set that down. So the stapler now has got what I want. I set that down flat, and now I can just push them together. There we go. It's a shape. It's the stupid little things that get me excited about projects. That's what this is. Is this necessary? Oh, heck no. But, you know, I like it. It makes me happy. Okay, so before I round these off and create dust, I should probably work on getting this other part glued together. So let's see, we've got... Start down here. It's curved, was really fun. Okay, that seems like it's the right spot. So I got to make sure that I'm gluing this together on the curve that I want, and not cattywampus, right? I want to glue this down so the side matches. I don't want to glue it down so it's slightly open. Probably should have put this on first, but I didn't. This piece will be fully captive anyway. Oh, I never put the glue on this side. No wonder it's not sticking. It won't stick to the wood because you didn't put the glue on the wood side. You only put the glue on the foam side. So yeah, details. That's what this stuff's for. Oops. Is that open enough? Is that going to leak out that one? I don't think this is actually open. I think this is yeah, I need a different bottle of glue. Oh yeah, I need a different bottle of glue. Is this one healthier? No! Ow! Okay. Ow! Got a great big bottle back there. That should be good enough. Waiting for gravity to help. There we go. To get the glue to go down to the bottom. And I'm totally not on camera. Sorry, guys. You missed out on all the exciting gluing. How could you possibly know what happened? You didn't see it happen. I'm going to take a piece of scrap and just smear this glue so it's not as chunky. And then have some aerosol accelerant. It's always nice to have on your hand. There we are. That should set that up in a hurry and possibly even cause it to crystallize and get white. And it's not, which is nice. I'm not seeing that happen. Probably because it's not too thick. Okay. Now I can go back to, where are we at? Like I grind all these parts, or I can set them aside and I can just finish one up really quick. Finish. To the point that I can. I don't have enough parts for everything. Then it goes on that way, so I want to put glue on that side. Okay. Then I want a pair of these. So got these. I'm going to need a pair of the textured grips. So there's a left and a right, right? You can kind of see that, kind of. So I got a left and a right, and I can just put glue on the flat side on both. When I go to sand these down, I'll just end up taking all the texture off, probably. I may not. I might leave a little central piece. That actually might be kind of cool. That's actually a thought. Since I am, for once, introducing some detail to it that is not in the tiny pieces from the board game, yeah, I might. When it comes time to sand this and round it all off, just assume that with the hole that's here, keep this through the full arc textured and sand the rest down. That might work. That might look kind of neat, that little bit of texture on it. It might look really, really wrong and might have to all be erased. The more I talk through it, it's like, yeah, that isn't going to do what you want it to do. And that isn't going to look intentional. It's just going to look like you forgot something. That's going to take a second to dry. Hey, Odin, it's been almost 3 years since the last proper item making video. Wow, has it really? Just wonder if there are any plans to start making these up again. Absolutely, there's plans, DeBorder Man. Man, who remembers Bucky O'Hare? No, DeBorder Man, yeah. Yeah. It's taken a bit. My life really crashed hard 3 years ago, basically. I got rescued out of a really dark place, personally, and I just haven't gotten back into that groove. And it's been occurring to me, but at the same time, I've got a really happy life structure to where I don't think about doing that. So, yeah, wanted to happen. Be some major improvements with some financial things if I did. DJ Stumpy is saying, who remembers Bucky O'Hare? You know, I just saw a Reddit post this morning where somebody was working on Bucky O'Hare's spaceship as a model. Yeah, I do remember Bucky O'Hare. I don't remember it well, but I do remember it. Who remembers the green rabbit that was in Star Wars Marvel Comics issue number 7? You know, the first 6 issues were the Marvel Comics adaptation of the first theatrical film that came out, I think, the same year or shortly after, maybe 78, from the first movie. I remember those comics. Yes, old enough to remember those comics when they came out. And then number 7 came out. Oh, there's more story, Mom. I want a comic. And there's this green rabbit wearing Mork from Ork's flight suit, practically. All right. he does appear again later in other places, but yeah, he was there a little bit in the beginning, and then I think that was at the time when 20th Century Fox had control over Star Wars before Lucas took control back over it again. And so once Lucas had all the rights back, and he had control over the tie-in media and stuff. And this is the point in time when the Star Wars Holiday Special got put out, and you had dancing stormtroopers appearing on the Donnie and Marie Osmond variety show, because variety shows were huge in the late 70s on TV. So after dancing stormtroopers and after the Holiday Special and after Green Rabbits flying with Han Solo the Millennium Falcon, Lucas got control of it again, and all that stuff disappeared. Oh, darn. Yeah. Thank you, Adobe Man. Says, feel your brother, stay strong. Thank you. Thank you, DeBorder Man. I called you Adobe Man. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why the videos kind of stopped, and absolutely recognize that putting videos out would be probably good for me mentally, but there's this, it's hard to push past it. The big issue is there's lots of little issues, but basically there's a point in time with right around when I finally crashed and stopped putting videos out, for almost 2 years prior. So starting in like 2021, 2020, there's a huge other thing that happened in the world, but not really related. YouTube changed how they paid out for their videos. They changed the algorithm effectively. And the biggest thing they did is they changed that content creators, YouTubers, went from having to opt in to having commercials, right? Had to opt in to having paid advertisements, because when you did that, you got a kickback from it. And so if advertisers are going to be on YouTube, they could only be advertising on these channels that agreed to do this. But somewhere in the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, midway through that year, somewhere in there, YouTube changed it to where everybody got basically advertisements, commercials, running during their YouTube videos, whether they wanted them or not. And it was actually very difficult, if not impossible, to opt out of that. At the time, I was working at a PBS station, and boy, were they pissed that they went from not having any at all to now, why do I have commercials with my PBS videos? We're not supposed to have any of these. We're not allowed to, PBS wasn't allowed to endorse stuff because they were public broadcasting, so they weren't allowed to have that type of an opinion. So that was a fun one to try and work through at that time. Now, coming back to the side where I'm making YouTube videos and making money from my YouTube videos, by having all the videos on YouTube available for commercials and not just the ones that agreed to do it, the amount of commercial airtime, if you will, the amount of space that advertisements can occupy has now greatly increased. And then on top of doing that, they introduced the mid-roll ads, which we're all living with now, where after 5 or 8 minutes or so, the video will stop and an advert will play, or two, and then it'll go back to doing the videos. And sometimes those dang mid-roll ones run for 15 minutes in the middle of a 3-minute video. Anyway, so by introducing those, now not only do you have advertising space at the beginning of every single YouTube video while a viewer is watching it, but you have it happening every 5 to 8 minutes during the video. So if you do all of that, the amount of space available means that the amount of paid space has less value, right? You don't have to pay as much because you're going to be in front of more stuff. Or you don't pay out as much because, so on and so forth. One of those things happen. More availability, cheaper pricing, right? So what does that mean to me? Even though on my end, my work didn't change for the video that I'm putting out. And the amount of advertising time that I had available to just my video didn't really change much. It did. The mid-roll ads helped in a way after they nerfed it by making every video have commercials in the beginning of it. And so I was working, 60, 80, 100 hours a week when you should be working like 40 to be full time to get these videos done and out every single week. The amount of money I was making dropped to a fourth of what I was making when I started. And that I still have anger over. I'm still up to my eyeballs in debt from dealing with having to pay bills at that time, because the only way I could have I was trying to do YouTube full time because it worked in 2019 and 2020. It was great. I was saving money, but by the end of 2022, I ended up putting all my monthly bills on credit cards, and I'm still paying that debt down. In 2026. I've been floating that debt along for 4 years, paying interest on my power bill from 2022. I'm excited about moving because I'm going to be able to make that debt go away finally. And so all that really still weighs on me heavily with YouTube and getting videos done, because I got some pretty nasty opinions, and I got burnt, and it's really hard. And what's interesting, I know I've talked about this a number of times. I don't even know if you're still here, the Doberman. A bunch of other things happened in my life too. Divorce, a bunch of other things happened at the same time. But so it isn't just this, but there's the actual YouTube portion of it. In late 2022, I got to go to an event called Silicon. I think it was pretty sure it was 2022. Yeah, I think it was October. And Silicon was a convention that happened in San Jose, California, and Adam Savage was the main sponsor guy. It was like Adam Savage presents Silicon was the idea, right? And what was really cool about this particular con, effectively, it was a maker con. This was a con that happened with all sorts of maker people there, maker businesses, Raspberry Pis, Reynolds Smooth On, Adafruit, Blick Art. All those people were there with booths, in addition to a ton of YouTube makers, a ton of industry people. It was awesome to be there, especially as an attendee, because it was this really cool space where I got to meet a bunch of people that I've known through YouTube work, but never got to meet outside of, like, maybe a lot of them I met at Dragon Con, but still not the number of people that were there at Silicon. Unfortunately, Silicon wasn't profitable as a business. It was the only year it happened. But while we were there, and I got a chance to talk to all sorts of YouTube people that I don't normally get to talk to, frankly, like that, including Frankly Built. All of them, every single one of them had the same issue I did, across the board. Didn't matter how big they were. The hacksmith had to reduce his shop size and reduce the people that were working in his shop that were getting paid, because the money wasn't coming in. So here's somebody with millions of subscribers. I don't even have that. You have 1 million. And on and all the way down. And you get down to the group of people that I can most relate to. Those of us that are doing the cosplay, the EVA foam, that level DIY instruction, Punish Props, Evil Ted. We were all kind of in the same area. Punish Props and I were Punish Props still has a couple of 100,000 more subscribers than I do, and I have a couple 100,000 subscribers more than Ted does, but we're all right in the same area. And both of those guys, one of them had to leave an external shop that they were in. They were getting some help with some people with doing some behind the scenes stuff. Those people had moved on. It was all very nice the way it was said online, but if you read it and you knew what was going on, they weren't able to be paid anymore, and they had to not be part of the group anymore. And and they moved back to their external shop. They had to close down. They moved back to where they started their videos because that was one set of rent instead of two sets of rent, two sets of insurance, two sets of utility bills. Evil Ted had always had a home shop, never changed that, still has it, but ended up getting a day job in order to supplement because YouTube wasn't enough. For a short time there, Ted would still take contract work in Hollywood, but was doing a lot with YouTube. At this time, it's flipped. He's back to doing things on YouTube and doing a lot of contract work with Hollywood, but straight up has a day job with somebody in Hollywood because the funds wasn't there, right? Because we're just killing ourselves for far less than we should have been getting paid for what we were doing. But it becomes a catch-all. You know, am I angry at YouTube? Yeah, a little bit because it affected me. But at the same time, you look at the high level of what YouTube's looking at, and I chose to make really complicated long-form videos that took a lot of work to write, edit, create the craft for, and present to you guys, versus, hey, I'm unboxing the iPhone 8. Isn't this thing cool? And that actually got more views. And having done a little bit of those videos, helping other people do them, they go together very quickly. They edit very quickly. You could almost do it live to tape and be done. But from an advertiser's point of view, there's no difference between the two. So me doing all this extra work from YouTube's point of view, whatever, dude, that's what you want to do, fine. You know, that's kind of the way it ends up being. I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, realistically, there's more content being put up on YouTube per day than I think a single person can watch in a year. So, I mean, you know, you're going to make some high-level, grandiose, all-covering rules. So, yeah, that affected me. And those rules for how the monetization got paid out and how the advertising got paid out affected me. I'm still here, still doing it. I'm still making money on YouTube. My back catalog still generates income. It's kind of cool. My videos are effectively evergreen, but, you know, and meanwhile, the iPhone 8 unboxing, aside from nostalgia or historical, isn't. You know, whatever. Am I bitter? Yeah, a little bit. But realistically, I can be adult enough to see why. And all that plays into making it really hard for me mentally to get going on making a video, into putting in the time, into giving up, you know, my evenings, because now I've got a day job. I had to get one. So I go to work and I come home from work, and then do I go out in the garage and work again? Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I come out here and I have fun and I do this. But at the same time, to commit to doing that, especially on a weekly again, it just can't happen. I don't have I can't. So that sucks, but that's where I'm at. Okay, I've been gluing this together while I've been bitching about YouTube. Hey, I love you guys. With way more than the Doberman talked about. DIY prop shop, right on. Thank you, to Doberman. Talented YouTube should be recognizing and not punishing you for doing something, making people happy. Right. Well, YouTube, like I was saying, YouTube's not trying to punish me. It just becomes a blanket. How is YouTube going to handle everybody with a single set of rules? Because there's too dang many people, especially with all the different languages, all the different countries, because anybody can do it. They need to just make a blanket rule. And so I got affected by a blanket rule. The way it is. It's the way it's going to be. And nothing's going to change it. Wrote a book about it, except you already made mini films, so you can't really complain. Oh, okay. Super glad I was able to help you get through that. Yes, thank you, Shop Gremlin. Absolutely. Shop Gremlin really helped me get through that tough time. Big reason why Shop Gremlin is around. I was having a really hard time getting through that tough time. Like, really, like way deeper than I want to talk about right now, having a hard time getting through that. And so, yeah, I'm really very grateful for Shock Gremlin's help in helping keep my sanity and helping me. Let me get this glued together. I've got glue on all these other, so I may as well glue these together. So yeah, it becomes a real complicated thing. I end up telling the story a lot. A lot of you guys have been here a few times and you've heard that story multiple different times, multiple different ways, paraphrased different ways. I try really hard not to let that story evolve and be different. I will bring up things that I might remember differently, but I try really hard to keep that story factually correct and not, the fish kept getting bigger and bigger until I caught a whale. And then as I was trying to reel it in with my towing chain, the whale snapped. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to make an ever-growing fishing story out of it. You stole my mojo. Exactly, DJ Stumpy. Exactly that. Doomsday Does Gaming asked something, the Doberman, or is that something else? Policy instructions. Oh, up here. Okay. Hey, Odin, I loved your work for years now, and I'm looking for some advice. I have a jar of meltable plastic pellets, okay, that I want to use to make a wearable set of orc tusks. Any advice? Oh, yeah. Okay. So Shock Rumlin says, I think if you melt the plastic pellets per the instructions and hand mold them while soft and not too hot and fit them to your mouth, it should work. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I used to remember. Ha! I can speak English good. I do okay. There used to be a product called Friendly Plastic that was available at craft stores a long time ago. And they sold it in sheets and they sold it in pellets. And the pellet form of Friendly Plastic is mixed with effectively sawdust, and that's how you make Warbler, believe it or not, with a couple of other additives. So yeah, if you melt your plastic, however the instructions say to do it, which is probably warm water near hot water, and then just sculpt it with your hand. I've known somebody who did exactly this to make tusks for the troll that he would do for going to Renaissance fairs, and then when he molded them to his actual teeth, and these are tusks that came up to his nose, right? So which are huge in a human face, not huge in an orc sense, but they went on the outside, so he had that it would cause distortion of his lips. It went on the outside of his teeth, but there was just a little bit that went on the inside of the teeth in order to hold them in place. Now that little bit was also just enough of a little bit that if it got caught on something, the plastic would break and his tooth wouldn't. And so then he would fit those on with dental adhesive. You could get denture adhesive, Posident or whatever it's called. It's usually kind of a pinky color close to gum color. You put a little bit of that onto your tusks and you stick it over your teeth. You should be able to have the plastic be malleable enough to get them to fit to you, with it simply being hot, like hot water hot. Don't burn yourself, of course, but you should be able to get those to fit, and that would probably be the way about going about doing it. And there's a lot of temperature stuff in there that's going to be very dependent on what your tolerances are, and what you can put up with. But once you've got them molded and once you've got them fitted to you, if the sculpting you've done, they're still a little too mashed potato-y and they're still a little too dimpled and not smooth enough, you can sand them. From what I can remember, you can sand Friendly Plastic either by hand or with a rotary tool. And then if you wanted to, you can come back with a heat gun and you should be able to heat the outside of it, which should gloss over the fuzziness, because it's going to be fuzzy. It's going to be when it sands, it's not going to sand smooth, I don't think. I don't think Friendly Plastic does. I think it ends up being like, fuzzy. I don't know how else to put it. But the heat gun will cause that stuff to melt and calm down. And I think Devin, the guy that did the troll tusks, even went so far as to take some food-safe epoxy and painted the tusks with this food-safe epoxy that had dyes in it, because since it was painted with epoxy and allowed to dry, that kept them shiny, perma gloss, but it was safe to put in his mouth. And by adding some material to the epoxy, I think it was just acrylic, really honestly, I think he added acrylic paint to it. He was able to get it to be more yellowed towards the bottom and more nasty, old teeth towards the bottom, and a cleaner white towards the top. And I think that's the way that Devin did it way back in the day. It's been a while. That's all just odd memories from people that that have done different stuff. I've got my parts assembled, ready for sanding, which I'm not going to be doing. I don't have this piece in. I'll put that in after everything else is sanded, so I don't sand that little part. But basically, yeah, we got 10, 5, 6, 5, 10. So we're looking at 36 millimeters thick, which is pretty thick. But once this is sanded down to being rounded off, it just becomes cartoonishly thick and not stupid thick like it is now. And then the little pepper pot thing goes on the top up here. My stapler, the little the telegraph thing that goes on top. So that'll get glued on. And it's got a gap because that round piece has to go on here, even though apparently looking at it, no, it's easier because this thing's 12 millimeters wide. So I just need to add a little piece of foam in between the barrel part that goes in the middle here. But I've got progress made on my glue props. Okay, everyone. It's 2 o'clock. It's time for lunch. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me today, for all of you that made it this far. I know I'm not working on Power Rangers stuff, but I'm just going with the flow. I hope me working on other things, having other stories, hope this format is still enjoyable for you. I do have a concern with how regularly Felicia can show up once the shop moves. That happening could affect how often Felicia can be here because there's a distance that's introduced. So I don't think she's going to disappear, but she may not be as regular as she has been, even though it hasn't been as much, which is kind of good. Maybe it's been kind of a weaning thing, right? But anyway, working on stuff, still planning on working on stuff. I'll be back, I think, in 2 weeks with another live stream, hopefully with Felicia, and maybe with more done on glue props, and we'll be able to work with Power Ranger helmets. Let's see. Polydent, thank you. Polydent, that's it. Well said, DJ Stumpy. What did he say? 100% DJ Stumpy. In the voice of Austin Powers. You stole my mojo! Yeah, that's what it was. Which, that's a horrible Austin Powers. We'll hold you to it when the story changes. It's time to see the doctor. Thank you, Advixen. Appreciate that. If anyone's going to notice the story changes, it's going to be Advixen. That guy is good at catching details. So we're probably... Minecraft! Oh, is that what time now? That's what Shady said. So either he says I need to pay attention to something changed on my Minecraft server, or he feels like I just need to go play some Minecraft. Losing your job does suck. Yeah. Yep. Minecraft, that's what it is. Shady's trying to offer support to Shop Gromit. Gotcha. Stupid Monkey says, love these streams, even if I can't always make it. Thank you, Stupid Monkey. It's 5 o'clock here. We love you, Odin. Thank you, Doomsday Does Gaming. And Advexen said something that they regretted. Okay, I'm going to sign off before I say something that I regret. I'll be back in 2 weeks, whatever, the 22nd. And awesome. I will see you all then. Except for those of you who are on Discord, I will see you shortly. Thank you all for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time. I just got to remember, here's Odin, who does